What does it really mean to focus? Is it about concentration, ignoring distractions, finishing tasks? Or is there something deeper happening, something that we often miss? The series Severance gives us a fascinating lens into this question. In Lumen Industries, employees undergo a surgical procedure that splits their consciousness in two. Their innie only exists at work, their outie only exists outside of it. One body, two minds, no shared memories. It's a radical premise, but it offers something rare, a thought experiment made real. Because when you separate memory, identity, and purpose, you get a perfect test lab for attention. So whether you're a fan of the show or just curious about how focus works in real life, this video will guide you through the science behind it, using Severance as our case study. We'll look at different types of focus, when focus helps us, and also when it hurts us, and how attention can become not just a mental skill, but a form of resistance. And yes, there will be some spoilers, but don't worry, we'll give you a heads up when we get there. So let's unpack the science behind why that works and how you can use it too. We're going to dive into 5 cognitive mechanisms that shape the way we focus, think, and act, all thanks to Severance. Mechanism 1, flow state. We begin inside the Macrodata Refinement department. What's the task? Sort numbers on screen. Identify the ones that feel scary. No one explains what the numbers mean. The instructions are a bit cryptic. The outcome? Unknown. And yet, the workers are completely absorbed. This is the first place where we encounter a powerful cognitive phenomenon, flow state. Coined by psychologists Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, flow is a state of total immersion in an activity. Time seems to vanish, distractions fade, the world narrows into a single point of focus. It happens when 3 key conditions are met. 1, the challenge is just hard enough to match your skill level. 2, the task has a clear goal or feedback loop. 3, the environment supports uninterrupted attention. Inside Lumen, all 3 are present, oddly enough. So the numbers may seem meaningless, but the task is emotionally charged. The workers report feeling fear or calm from certain sequences, and that feeling is that feedback that they need. In one early scene, Mark is teaching Dylan how to sort, and at first Dylan's casual. But as he clicks, he quiets, focuses, breathes differently. And then he says, I felt something. That's flow, not just attention to the task, but emotional engagement with it. In real life, flow can make us more productive, creative, even fulfilled. But it's also seductive because in flow, we stop questioning why we're doing something, we just do it. The questioning happens before, not during. That's what makes the number at Lumen so compelling, but also so dangerous. So when was the last time you entered flow? Did it feel meaningful or just absorbing? Had you asked yourself why? And how often do we mistake deep engagement for genuine purpose? Mechanism 2, extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So how does Lumen keep people focused? Well, in the real world, it's hard enough to finish a to-do list without checking your phone 20 times, and yet, inside Lumen, employees are glued to screens, immersed in tasks with no clear meaning. So at first glance, it seems like magic, but really it's just behavioral conditioning. Small, odd incentives like waffle parties, finger traps, music dance experiences, they're all there for compliance. They aren't rewards that make logical sense. They're strange, arbitrary, but effective. Why? Because they're novel and intermittent, a combination that makes our brain light up. This taps into a psychological principle that's known as variable reward. It was studied in depth by Skinner and later applied to everything from gambling to social media. So how does it work? You do the task, you might get something good. So you keep doing it. In one scene, Dylan proudly shows off his prizes, is genuinely delighted. But notice what's missing, meaning. He's focused, but he's not thinking. And then Helly arrives. Suddenly, the system stops working. Because she doesn't want waffle parties, she wants out. Her refusal to play along disrupts the rhythm of compliance and rewards. Something starts to shift in the group. They begin paying attention not to the perks, but to the gaps. The doors that don't open, the rules that contradict each other, that pain they feel without knowing why. Psychologist Edward Deci describes two types of motivation: extrinsic, rewards, punishment, status, and intrinsic, curiosity, mastery, and purpose. So Helly triggers the shift from extrinsic to intrinsic. She asks, why are we doing this? And eventually, so do the others. This is where focus becomes dangerous to those in power, because now attention isn't being used to complete tasks, it's being used to question systems. And here's the part that applies to us. Extrinsic motivation, so setting up small rewards for yourself using deadlines, accountability tools, can absolutely help your focus. It can keep you going when you're stuck or even when a task feels hard to start. But it's not the end goal. The real breakthrough comes when those external incentives awaken something deeper, when the task stops being just a task and starts meaning something to you. That's when focus transforms. Not just sustained, but self-propelling. So are you focused because you care, or because the system made it just distracting enough for you not to notice? And what happens when you stop chasing rewards and finally start chasing the truth? Mechanism 3, split focus. So let's move on to one of the most gripping moments in the series. So spoiler alert, this is your moment to pause if you're not caught up yet. Mark's innie has taken control of his outies body. He's at a public event, in a suit, surrounded by people, trying to act normal, but he's panicking inside. Why? Because he's just realized something devastating. His wife, Gemma, may still be alive, inside Lumen. And now, every second counts. He's scanning the crowd, trying to find someone that he can tell. Meanwhile, Helly and Irving, also in their outie lives, are having similar awakenings. It's one of the most powerful displays of divided focus becoming united. Think about it. Mark's two identities were never meant to meet. Innie Mark is meant to know nothing about the outside world, and outie Mark knows nothing of Lumen. But in this moment, the wall breaks, and both selves lock onto the same goal: tell someone the truth. This moment speaks to a powerful concept in cognitive science: dual awareness. In therapy, this often refers to being present in both a safe space and a difficult memory at the same time, allowing healing without full overwhelm. But it also applies here. Why? Because Mark is holding two versions of reality in his head, and both are focused on the same outcome. So instead of conflict, there's convergence. Two minds, one mission. This is rare in life, but incredibly powerful. Most of us split our attention constantly. We juggle roles, priorities, expectations. We compartmentalize to survive. But what if just for a moment, everything aligned? Your emotions, your values, your goals, all pointing in the same direction. That's what Mark experiences here. Not balance, but integration. And when we reach that point in our own lives, it's electric. It's when focus becomes clarity, and clarity becomes action. So where in your life do you feel divided? And what would it take to unify your focus? Not by doing less, but by aligning more. Mechanism 4, diffuse thinking. So let's shift our attention to someone who doesn't speak much, but says a lot: Irving. At Lumen, he's loyal to the core. He quotes the handbook like it's scripture. He corrects others when they step out of line. He believes in the structure, in the system, or at least he wants to. But when we meet his outie, we see something different. Alone in his apartment, Irving paints and paints and paints. What is he painting? The same hallway, over and over again. That sterile corridor from Lumen. It's haunting him, and he doesn't know why. This is a striking example of diffuse thinking in action. This term was coined by cognitive scientist Dr. Barbara Oakley, and diffuse thinking refers to the brain's background mode of processing. It's what happens when you're not focused on something directly, but your mind is still working on it, subconsciously connecting the dots. It's that aha moment in the shower. It's that solution that comes when you're taking a walk. Or in Irving's case, when your hand paints something that your conscious mind hasn't quite grasped yet. This kind of thinking is non-linear, it's full of emotion, and it emerges through dreams, habits, and at times art. So Irving's paintings aren't just decor, they're evidence that something in him remembers, even if he can't put it into words. And that's a critical point about attention. Not all attention is conscious. Sometimes our brain notices patterns before we do. Sometimes our intuition whispers long before our logic catches up, but only if we let it. Most of us never give our mind that chance. We fill every gap with noise, every quiet moment with content, every pause with productivity. But the best answers often come when we're not looking for them. So ask yourself, how much space are you giving your mind to wander, to work in the background, to connect those dots and deliver the insights that you've been searching for? Mechanism 5, cognitive dissonance. There's a moment in Severance where something subtle but irreversible happens. The team stops focusing on their tasks and they start focusing on the system. It's not because of one big event. It's the result of dozens of small moments where things just don't make sense. A hallway that leads nowhere, a rule that contradicts another, a memory that shouldn't exist but does. And at first, they brush it off. They're conditioned to. Their attention has been trained like a spotlight, just directed where lumen allows it. But eventually, something shifts. And we see it in how Mark looks around the office, in the way Irving hesitates before reciting the handbook, or even in the silence that falls when Helly starts asking questions out loud. So it builds slowly, until finally, in one quiet moment, Mark says to Dylan, "Something's wrong here." That single sentence marks a turning point. Because now their attention is no longer controlled, it's self-directed. And that's dangerous to any system that's built on compliance. When focus turns away from the sanctioned task and onto the structure that created it, that's not just curiosity, that's rebellion. This is a principle that extends far beyond lumen. In psychology, this kind of shift is often referred to as cognitive dissonance awareness, when reality no longer fits the narrative that we've been told and the brain begins to resist. So when you finally look closely enough to see the cracks in something that you once believed in, a system, a role, a relationship, what happens is that it becomes harder and harder to ignore. Focus becomes a kind of courage because paying attention to what's really happening might require you to act, to speak up, to leave, to make a change. And once that kind of attention is activated, something powerful happens. You can't unsee what you have seen. Focus can feel safe. It can be used to stay within the line, to keep your head down, to do your job, keep going. But the moment you choose to direct your attention towards the things that don't quite add up, the cracks in the system, the discomfort in your gut, the stories that don't make sense, then you're stepping into a different kind of focus. The kind that you cannot walk back from. Because once you've seen what's really there, you can't unsee it. And from that point on, every moment of attention becomes a choice. Do I keep looking or do I pretend I didn't see? So ask yourself, what are you choosing to focus on? What have you already seen that you're trying to forget and unsee? So what can we take from all of this? Severance doesn't just show us what focus looks like. It shows us what it costs and what it can unlock. At lumen, focus is manipulated, controlled, incentivized. And yet over time, each character starts to reclaim it, to direct it not just towards tasks, but towards truth. And that's the real message here. Focus isn't just about zeroing in. It's about choosing what to zero in on. It's not just a skill. It's a form of power. Because where we place our attention shapes everything. Our perception, our priorities, our possibilities. Sometimes we focus because we've been trained to. Because the world rewards what we're focusing on. Because we're used to keeping busy. But the moments that matter the most, well, they often begin when we stop to ask, why am I paying attention to this? And what is this pulling me away from? So take a look at your own life. What's been soaking up your focus lately? Are those things helping you to grow or just keeping you occupied? What isn't getting the attention that it deserves? When you start noticing these patterns, you might not be able to unsee them. And that's a very good thing. Because once you learn to question where your focus goes, you are no longer just using attention, you're owning it. So next time you watch Severance, or even just catch yourself zoning out at your desk, don't just ask what you're focusing on. Ask why. Because your attention isn't just a tool for productivity, it's a compass. It points to what you care about, what you believe, what you're avoiding, and also what you're ready to see. And the more consciously you direct it, the more powerful it becomes. So ask yourself, are you using your focus, or is something else using it for you? Because in the end, focus doesn't just help us to get things done. It helps us to wake up.